Um, I have to read my title because I always forget it. It's called The Chung Sam, Canadian Women of Chinese Heritage in Installation. I'm doing a research creation PhD at UQAM. It's a program called Le Doctorat en Études et Pratiques des Arts. And basically, it's an extension of my master's research where I was looking at the relationship that Canadian-born women of Chinese heritage, and that can mean mixed heritage as well. I'm half Filipino. The relationship that they have with the Cheongsam, and in particular, women born between 1965 and 1985, at a time when Canada was experiencing major waves of immigration from particularly Hong Kong. So, and this is sort of my experience. I was born in Hamilton, and my experience was very much of assimilation, where I was trying to be very Canadian, what Eva Mackey would call being Canadian, sort of subscribing to dominant culture. And as a result, I don't speak any Chinese dialect, and I feel somewhat estranged from that, from my Chinese heritage. And I'm exploring the use of clothing, ethnic clothing, in particular the Chinese dress, as a way that people might be using to reconnect or find some connection with their Chinese heritage. Because it's a research creation project, I'm making an installation. I'm a media artist, and I've mostly done single channel work. And this PhD has given me the opportunity to branch out into installation, where I can actually use space, and it's still time based, but there's also going to be objects, and we get out of the single screen kind of thing. So the research questions are kind of interlinked. The first question is, what is this relationship? What are the ideas, attitudes, wearing practices that women have with the Chinese dress? They may not have ever worn it and be like, I would not wear that dress, and I'll tell you why. And so it can be very much based in whatever experience you have, but doesn't necessarily mean you've worn the dress. I'm interviewing women. I'm looking to interview more women. Je cherche les femmes francophones aussi pour les entretiens. So if you were born between 1965 and 85 anywhere in Canada and you have an opinion to share about this dress, I would love to talk to you. And then briefly, I'll just describe to you the three works. There's sort of sketches over there. Basically, this relationship, this sort of richness of answers that I hope to get from interviews will be reflected in the three works, and to show the ambivalence, the complexity of this relationship, and give voice to the multiplicity of responses to this relationship. So the first work I'm hoping to make is a Chinese screen. I wanted to do address sort of multi-screen possibilities, and the Chinese screen provided a kind of metaphor for space and delineation of space, and what do you hide behind, and are you changing behind that thing? And it's going to address. I'm going to use these screens to talk about the history and the evolution of the Cheongsam, which is its own rich story, and also kind of media influences that have affected our view of this dress. Okay, the next work, it's the dresses robe hybride. All right, so I'm going to make three dresses. I'm working with Gary Mack, who's a local Cheongsam tailor in Montreal. We're making a Cheongsam that's a DNA Cheongsam, where I visualized my own DNA. But who knows who can read that, right? So it's sort of like being of Chinese heritage and not being actively perceived as having any Chinese heritage, and kind of walking around and saying, well, can't you see that? And people going, no, I can't. So that'll be a blue dress. I'm playing also with the color in Chinese culture, primary colors mostly. So there'll be this blue one. There'll be a red one. I've taken a store-bought Cheongsam, really typical, essential-looking red satin Cheongsam that's packed with symbols. And I've got my Chinese name, and I'm gonna embroider anywhere I can, like any space I can, my name on that. And then the third dress will be this yellow dress, which is called the banana dress, and I don't know if I have to even explain what that is. And then the third work, the third slide is gonna be this, it's called La Cabine d'Essayage, the fitting room. And it's a room that's, a fitting room that's gonna be made of plexiglass, entirely transparent. You go in, it's for one person. There's a mirror in front of you, And then projected onto your body will be a montage of clips of films from Hollywood movies, films that we're pretty familiar with, anyway that I've seen, that show just people trying clothes on and looking at themselves in the mirror. And that sort of opens up the discussion again. Even if you haven't worn a dress, even if you're not Chinese and you've never worn the cheongsam, you can relate to the experience of choosing clothing, which has a bearing on the way you think of yourself, what you want to project to the world, what you want to say to the world, how you want to be identified. So in a nutshell, I feel like I'm on TED Talks. So that's the work in a nutshell, and thank you very much.